Vietnam is a new kind of war. A fact is yet poorly understood in most parts of the world. Much of the confusion that prevails in the thinking of many people, and even many governments, stems from this basic misunderstanding. For in Vietnam, a totally new brand of aggression has been loosed against an independent people who want to make their own way in peace and freedom. Vietnam is not another Greece, where indigenous guerrilla forces used friendly neighboring territory as a sanctuary. Vietnam is not another Malaya, where communist guerrillas were, for the most part, physically distinguishable from the peaceful majority they sought to control. Vietnam is not another Philippines, where communist guerrillas were physically separated from the source of their moral and physical support. Above all, the war in Vietnam is not a spontaneous and local rebellion against the established government. In Vietnam, a communist government has set out deliberately to conquer a sovereign people in a neighboring state. And to achieve its end, it has used every resource of its own government to carry out its carefully planned program of concealed aggression. The VC military and political apparatus in South Vietnam is an extension of an elaborate military and political structure in North Vietnam, which directs and supplies it with the tools for conquest. The Ho Chi Minh regime has shown that it is ready to allocate every resource that can be spared, whether it be personnel, funds, or equipment, to the cause of overthrowing the legitimate government in South Vietnam and of bringing all Vietnam under communist rule. Not only is the war itself different, but also our main adversary, the Viet Cong, is a different kind of enemy. I should like to review with you selected portions of black and white communist film captured from the VC during Operation Junction City. This film was not edited when captured. It includes small portions of what is probably communist training and propaganda film, obviously rehearsed and designed to bolster the morale of the VC. It also includes portions of authentic, unrehearsed VC activity. Be that as it may, the film does provide a special insight into the activities of the Viet Cong. For the next 30 minutes or so, let's look at VC Charlie. These are the faces of the enemy, the Viet Cong. Most of them are young. Some of them are very young. There are presently 183,000 main force and guerrillas now mobilized in South Vietnam. These, of course, do not include NVA forces also deployed to the south. According to MACV, manpower procurement is becoming a problem for the VC. Larger commitments and increasingly heavy casualties have taken their toll and created a need for more men than volunteer enlistments can satisfy. This has caused the Viet Cong to rely primarily on a strong recruitment program and compulsory service. When these two methods fail to produce needed manpower, the Viet Cong often turn to large-scale kidnapping to fill their quotas. Regarding availability of manpower, the Viet Cong are far from exhausting their resources. The latest MACV estimate is that the Viet Cong control 22.4% of the population, or some 3.5 million people. From this pool, the Viet Cong have available about 1/2 million physically fit males in the age group 16 to 45. There is also an input into the manpower pool of some 30,000 males who come of military age each year. In short, even though the Viet Cong have a large manpower pool to draw upon, they are facing increasing difficulties in expanding the size of their forces and maintaining the quality of their military personnel. Men and supplies continued to enter South Vietnam over well-established infiltration routes. The VC Overland infiltration system probably employs at least 6,000 men and more than 100 small depots. In the northern half of the country, the VC rely heavily on human porters for the movement of supplies. In other areas, elephants and oxen are used. The VC also are employing trucks for some of their logistic support in controlled areas. These trucks are commandeered or confiscated from the ARVN. A common vehicle used in the movement of supplies is the bicycle. Asians have always placed much reliance on the bicycle and their nature is such that they have the patience to surmount the many obstacles encountered in using bikes over the difficult South Vietnamese terrain. It's been estimated that the VC can move 500 pounds of supplies over rough country such as this. Where feasible, sampans and shallow draft boats are also employed. As for personnel, about 50,000 North Vietnamese have infiltrated into South Vietnam during 1966. Now let's take a closer look at VC Charlie. First of all, what does he wear? Because of relatively mild weather conditions in most of Vietnam, clothing requirements do not appreciably affect the Viet Cong conduct of guerrilla operations. Of course, his rubber sandals are his trademark. They are most often made from old rubber tires with straps from rubber inner tubes. The most common uniform of the Viet Cong is the black pajamas, because it is easily procured and its common civilian use makes it difficult for government troops to detect. Variations of khaki-like uniforms are also common. The Viet Cong quartermaster activity relies chiefly on in-country support for its operation, and to some extent upon materiel brought from the north. In-country support consists of procurement of materials, limited manufacturing, and the actual process of issuing items to the troops. Here we see what is probably a VC uniform production depot. These women are making uniforms. Women are also used as porters, spotters, and in some cases are actually used in combat. What does the Viet Cong fight with? The VC supply of weapons and ammunition has been accumulated from several sources. Weapons buried or left behind after the French Indochina War in South Vietnam and Cambodia. Communist manufactured weapons infiltrated primarily through North Vietnam. Captured weapons and locally produced weapons. Distribution and stockpiling of captured weapons and ammunition are subject to strict accounting and control procedures. The pattern of weapon use by Viet Cong forces is continually changing. The percent of U.S. weapons in use by the VC was increasing up through 1965 due to higher loss rates by South Vietnamese forces. At the end of 1965, 35% of the weapons used by Viet Cong main force units were captured U.S. weapons. This loss rate has since been reduced, and by first quarter 1967, captured U.S. equipment represented about 25% of the total weapons used by the Viet Cong, a drop of 10%. You will recognize the M16 rifle in this stack. Current emphasis is on local manufacture of weapons and ammunition. Here we see the actual field manufacture of weapons. The rifle is crude, but it does the job. Here they are fabricating a mortar tube. The use of mortars and rocket launchers have increased of late. However, communist-supplied crew-served weapons have been introduced in sufficient quantity so that 81/82 millimeter mortars are now found in most main force battalions. The Viet Cong have become increasingly sophisticated in many of their weapons, but they still rely on mines and booby traps that, although primitive, are effective. Over the years, they have made do with whatever materials came their way. The Viet Cong have displayed considerable ingenuity and resourcefulness in their production and employment of mines and traps, and the results that they have achieved are widely recognized. The guerrillas are ingenious at fabricating mines from locally available resources, a fact borne out by the numerous variations of explosive devices that have been captured. Watch them fabricating mines. They utilize cans as cases, scavenged fillers from dud ammunition as explosives, and fuses removed from hand grenades as firing devices. The components are assembled to produce effective anti-personnel mines. Here they are making the pellets for use in anti-personnel mines. The effectiveness of mines was dramatically demonstrated during the Iron Triangle operation in October 1965. Of 300 casualties suffered by U.S. forces, 14 were attributed to gunshot wounds and the remaining 286 to explosive devices or mines. As the United States continues to increase its personnel and materiel strength, with a corresponding increase in operations against the guerrillas, greater quantities of better materiel are becoming available to the VC, since there is more unexploded ordnance from which the VC can fabricate mines. This film dramatically highlights the emphasis the VC place on salvaging dud ammo and explosives. The VC have become well versed in the techniques of disarming dud bombs and ammunition. Captured documents reveal that much training goes into this aspect of guerrilla activity, and it has paid off for the VC. The use of a simple hacksaw to cut through this bomb attests to the patience and tenacity of the VC in exploiting all available ordnance. Everything possible is salvaged. The powder and packing is carefully gathered and packaged. All useful components are removed. The materials are then taken to a depot for exploitation by trained personnel, some of whom are women. The VC are especially aware of the U.S. canister bomb unit's weapons, CBU, and take great pains to recover them. A Viet Cong analysis of the CBU bomblet is contained in a captured document which gives the characteristics of the bomblet, explains its functions and the method of disassembling unexploded bomblets. Weak points of CBU, according to the document, are as follows. 1. When the bomb hits trees and explodes in the air, shrapnel is sent out horizontally and not downward because the bottom of the bomb does not contain steel balls. 2. If the bomb is deflected by a small branch, the bomb is turned over and will not explode when it hits the ground. 3. Most bombs dropped on bamboo thickets and bushes do not explode. The document went on to say that unexploded bomblets should be recovered and transformed into mines. Anyone can do it, even a child. When recovered, CBUs provide the Viet Cong with a versatile weapon for its use in various types of booby traps and mines. They are lightweight, easily transportable, and are quickly planted. Here we see one being attached to a tree. They are designed to kill and to maim.